morning, everyone, and welcome to day 39 of Talking Horses. He's Jonathan Kinchin. I'm Andy Serling. An absolutely glorious day. We're on the turf. Turf listed is good. You know, we got a little rain yesterday, and obviously, if people are wondering like why the 13th came off, because if you run that race while it's been raining out, you're just going to tear it up. And as a result of not running it, we can run on the turf today and tomorrow. I think it's a fair trade.
Yeah, it's
Unfortunate, but a fair trade nonetheless.
There's so many things that are more frustrating to me than what we do as it pertains to the turf course. I just don't.
I mean, it's frustrating, but it's one of those things that, you know, and one of the reasons that we're able to run as many turf races late in the year as we have, and I think people have noticed that, was because we were prudent earlier in the season as opposed to just shredding it. And one of the things that happened in other years is you want to run the turf races, and sometimes it has a deleterious effect later in the meet. We have a carryover in the pick six, $210,000. That'll kick off in race number 8 of our 13-race marathon. 25 races to go. Should mention Javier Castellano will not be riding for the rest of the meet. We wish Javier a speedy recovery. He's a great man and a good jockey, a great jockey, I should say, as well, with those 4 Eclipse Awards. And we're sorry that he missed the end of the meet, but we're just glad that he's not hurt seriously.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so he will not be riding. The scratches weren't given by when we started, but we do have them, and we'll go race by race. Feel free to whisper them in my ear before a race so we know that it's confirmed, though. The first one I have is race number 2. The 3 and 10 are out, and the 11 and 12 get in. Is that correct? Right. So 3, 10 are out, 13, 14, 15 in race 2. But anyway, we'll head over to Naira Bets first. And we'll deal with all of this. If you're not a member, you know the drill. Use the promo code SPA250. If you're not a member by now, ask yourself, what have you been doing with your life? Have you been living it the way you should be living it? And the answer is probably no if you're not a member, so get on board. Also, check out track stats when you're over there as well. Keep them rolling here. What else do we have? We have carryover. We mentioned $210,165. Ran into a guy I know, good guy. Told me after I did Generations, very excited. He said, I'm live in the double with the 1 in the last. It's over $1,000. Kind of felt I didn't have the heart to say to him, well, that horse can't win. But I rooted for him, and he won. It was pretty cool. So congrats to him. Money back guarantee. Get $10 back on your win bet in the first tier, first at Del Mar. A little tougher. We had a 4-horse field last year in the first race, last week. And this year a little bit tougher. Opting over Naira Bets. Cross country pick 5, 2 at Monmouth, 3 here, including the Baruch and the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Try to follow this one. 12:30 to 3:48 on FS2. There'll be a gap. We'll be on YouTube, as well as I think one of the Bally's, but I know we'll be on YouTube. Then we're on FS1 from 5 to 6:30, and 6:30 to 7 on FS2. You don't care. You'll be gone at 3:30, right? You're not going to be late, are you?
No, I'm early.
I think we're on early together tomorrow. But going out with a bang together.
Yes, tomorrow we will be.
Yes, we are.
I like that.
Right. All right, race number 1. So race number 1 is what?
We picked the same horse.
It's late in the meet. We've both gotten stupid. Well, I think we both have the same thought. We'll start with Hurricane Nelson. He's going to win one of these one day, but, man, he's just getting a little bit tiresome. And, look, maybe he just keeps running into good horses each time, and it's not like he's running bad figures, but you got a horse with 4 seconds and 1/3, a lot of short price and a lot of big figs. It gets a little wearisome.
Yeah, just, you know, I typically can forgive a horse for a lot of seconds if they're bigger prices, 6 to 1, 7 to 1, 8 to 1, 4 to 1, things like that. But when they start dipping down into odds on 2 to 1, 3 to 1, even money, and they're running second, then I start questioning if they really want to win.
I cannot argue with you. And as we look at Quando quickly, who's the other major contender, the 4, he ran better. And I think it's important to note he's losing to Pentathlon in what came of a very quick race, and Pentathlon is going to come up a little while in our conversation about the horse that we picked on top.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Quando was good. I mean, I preferred Quando over Hurricane Nelson just because, you know, if you look at those prices, this horse still hasn't won yet. A couple of seconds, couple of thirds. You know, it's been 9 to 1, 6 to 1, 9 to 1. So there's a reason to me. I mean, the horse was bet like the second or third best horse in a race, and he's running just where he's at.
There's a couple ways to look at it, right? He comes back in 17 days, and people are trying to get in the last part of the meet and noticing a lot less scratches as we're in this last few days of the meet to be able to run at Saratoga. And his last race was a giant figure improvement. And if that's the horse he is now, he's going to be very tough in here. But he lost to Pentathlon, who finished 3rd, when Escondido finished 4th in his debut. And It's a Miracle, who came back and ran a huge race in winning, and he was 2nd. And Luminaire came back and won for Todd Pletcher. You're getting getting the drift. This horse came out of a very live first race. And then last time out, I mean, this horse completely eliminated the start, down to his knees, and he made a huge move into the race before sort of being eased. He's the interesting alternative, no?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, this is.
Is he really going to be this big a price? David has a 15-1 line. I guess when you have horses like the 4 and 7, 4 and 8, there isn't much room for anyone else. And he obviously believes the firster is going to get bet as well, the 2.
Yeah, but it's, a lot of times these horses get bet off their last race, and his last race, like you said, had some excuses but wasn't good. But if he runs his debut, there's been 5 horses to win out of that race.
No, I'm with you on this. I think he's the clear alternative, unless you like the firster. Now listen, not an easy spot for a firster for Cherie DeVoe with Montalcino, but I do respect her, and it does get Irad to ride this horse, which is probably a good sign.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do with this one because the works have been at Keeneland, so there's no sign. You can usually look at the clocker report to get an idea, but I would imagine this horse can run a little bit. I got pretty creative with the 6, or we got creative with the 6, and I thought,
Well, that doesn't preclude you from getting creative. Huh? That doesn't preclude you from getting creative. The 1 Golden Gorilla is a half-to-crowded trade who missed winning the Gotham by a nose in his second career start, race number 2. Well, one thing I think that's important to note is the rails have come down to 0 on the inner turf course. So we're running down the inside where we haven't been for a few weeks. And that could potentially help inside runners, though we have been reasonably far out for a little while, so I'm not sure that it'll be just the rail that's better. And as we look at Good Long Cry, and for our buddy Reagan Swinbank, and don't cry, I picked you 3rd. Jonathan felt sorry for you and picked you 2nd. Opulent Restraint was rumored to be a good thing and was a big disappointment first time out. I'm hoping the horse is better second time out, and I'm also hoping from this post that he can get the right trip, or she can, excuse me.
Well, I think that one of the most impressive turf horses I've seen in this entire meet is the horse that's going to win this race.
That horse ran really well in the stake the other day. I was lucky to beat that horse.
Yeah, so I thought, so this race in my brain popped in as, Good Long Cry ran really well in that race, and Opulent Restraint had an excuse because they ran into raining flowers. So I just thought that was probably one of the most productive 2-year-old turf races that we'll have in the entire meet. And so I thought those 2 were the ones to beat. And I agree with you that, just maybe the 9 will run better with the starter under the belt.
You've got to hope, because it is a highly touted Chad Brown horse that disappointed. And the other thing is, to me, the main competition, I thought that Good Long Cry got away with a very, very tepid pace. And I'm wondering if she can with the same kind of pace in here. Now, who knows? But you have to imagine maybe that somebody else is going to go. And as we look at Love Tempo, I thought she ran very well last time, losing by a nose to a well-bred, though long shot firster. And drawing the 2 post is not going to hurt her chances. And she figures to get a better trip than the 9 Opulent Restraint.
Yeah, in her last 2 starts, and her only 2 starts, she's sat comfortably inside and tipped out. And so she's going to be comfortable there. She's going to get that same setup here, sit comfortably inside from the 2 with Flavian, tip out, make 1 run. Like I said, I just think that Raining Flowers race is the best 2-year-old turf race that we've seen. So I'm going to have to put those horses on top because I think it's a productive race.
All right, we'll see what happens in race number 2. Keep in mind the 3 and 10 are scratched out of the body of the race. The 11 and 12 get in, and the 13, 14, 15 are scratched. Race number 3, the 2 Carongo is scratched from this race, as well as the MTOs, 10 down, 10 down. Doesn't really majorly affect the race. We'll take a look at Alexis Zorba's last turf sprint, where Yarrow finished 3rd to start it out. My problem with Alexis Zorba in here is I think there's other speeds, and he just doesn't win. He's never won a turf sprint, even though arguably this was a better field.
I just have a thing for this horse. I've just been chasing this horse forever. I thought that Maker Stretching Out was going to be kind of dangerous. That didn't necessarily work well. I mean, he did win with him, but I'm talking about, I thought, even some of the other spots. I just felt like, this horse has speed. Manny will be aggressive away from there. I often will side with the speed of the speed in turf sprints. I think that more than anything else, speed of the speed wins turf sprints than anything else in racing. This is a little bit of a pet for me. I've just been chasing this horse for a while. Cigarette Boat makes a lot of sense down on the inside, tucked in, should get a nice trip.
I thought he ran really well last time. The other thing is probably able to rate a little bit off of them and maybe get that inside tuck, right? And that's why I liked him. I thought his last race was extremely good. As the winner came from way back, and 26 Black is pretty good, as is a second place finisher.
Yeah, and Louis been Louising.
He's been
as
great.
Of late.
He's had a great last 2 to 3 weeks, and he's really picked it up from a struggling beginning, and it's great to see. An interesting horse in here is the 6 Determined Effort. And he was at a race that Alexis Zorba was in, interestingly enough, to begin his career, and we haven't seen him now for almost 9 months. The thing I want to show, though, is there he is, this ride by Irad. For the people that don't appreciate how great Irad Ortiz is, that he got over the rail from the 10 posts in this race, and they fanned across the track. The race completely collapsed. I don't think you can find a better ride given by a jockey all year in this maiden race from post 10. I mean, this is a race that nobody will really notice because it's a maiden race going 5 furlongs in the turf. But this is a race that really collapsed. And while he was impressive winning, I just don't know exactly what to do with him. But I'm not going to be shocked when he's okay. But he did have a juicy trip there.
I mean, I was impressed with that. You said the word collapse like 3 times in that whole thing, and that's the problem. Yep. Is I did that look as easy as it did because it fell apart? And is this one going to collapse? I mean, he's facing tougher, obviously. But I couldn't ignore. I think 7-2 is probably too short for me. I would want a little bit more of a price.
I agree. He's a terrible bet at 7-2 in this race.
But I do like. Opinion. I mean, I wouldn't want this horse to come running and beat me in a multi if I had another opinion somewhere else that was close.
I'm very curious to see what he does because obviously he has some talent. But this is not an easy bunch, and he's giving up a lot in experience to some pretty decent turf sprinters. Mm-hmm. But listen, he also has upside they don't have. We'll see what happens in race number 3. Race number 4. Don't think anyone came out of race number. Oh, the also eligible. Oh, actually, the 1A, 2B came out of this race. Don't think it really affected things from any sort of pace perspective.
You said 2B. I think it's the 2 that's out.
2. I'm sorry. 1. Oh, 2B. No, is it?
Guys, I had 2 as well.
You're right. I misscratched it. The 2B is in. Thank you.
Yeah, within view.
Eric from Miami is here. Eric made it up from Miami. Keep quiet. I could have read that. They were up there. Thank you, Jonathan. You've picked the Ray Handle horse. I bet a Ray Handle horse yesterday. He sucked. And I'm a little annoyed, Ray. So I want some pizza or something when we get back to Aqueduct. I'm just letting you, I'm putting you on notice because you've won every race except when I've bet on you. How bad was Barrage yesterday?
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll take a, wait a second. These are not my picks.
Those are mine.
Those are Jonathan's picks. I mean, listen, I appreciate it. I get it. It's a hint. You're trying to help me. But I picked the race 9574. 9574. 9. We'll give you a sec. 9574. Why don't we go to the replay of Cloud Forest while you pick them? I like that. If Jonathan does well today, can I switch all my picks to his? I talk about Cloud Forest, who is kind of the horse to beat.
Yeah, Cloud Forest, look, the horse ran well, has been running in starter allowances, drops in for 25. I think that's a pretty sneaky big drop. When horses run protected in starter allowance races and then they run for a tag, I think that's a pretty significant drop. Obviously the biggest drop in racing, maiden special weight to maiden claimers. I think that's a big one too. I just thought Cloud Forest, I think that just figures, makes sense. He's been wide in his last 2 starts. Last 3 starts has lost a lot of ground. I just thought he was the best horse in here.
He ran very well in this last race, and that was back in January. I can't believe it was that long ago. The one thing that I'll say about it is, thank you. You got a 4th horse you want to throw in?
Give me the 9.
Thank you. I don't love the drop, though. Claimed for 40, been laid up for 8 months. I get it. They're trying to win races. I get it. But, man, I mean, he's a cinch to get claimed, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would think so.
Cinch.
Yeah, I would think so.
And if he doesn't get claimed, that would worry me probably even more in this race. But there is no doubt that he is a very logical horse. And as far as my horse, Smile Mon, this horse had absolutely no chance last time. That was a wicked pace. He couldn't make the lead in there. And it's no surprise he was effectively eased in there by Ricardo, and I don't blame him. He's supposed to be able to make the lead in this race. I know Cavendish has some speed. I'm hoping he clears with Kendrick. And I think if you look at his prior race back in June, at Churchill, it's good enough to win. Rob Atras obviously has not had a great meet, and that concerns me a little bit. But I thought he'd be a fair enough price, and to me, he was the best alternative to the favorite here.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it in the first race, right, with the 6 horse. People just, ignore, they see these things, and these horses drift sometimes. because they just think that with their last races is who they are. If you can dig a little deeper, you're right. There's a bunch of numbers in there that make sense. I like the draw too towards the outside for a horse like this who going that mile. I think stay in the clear.
And the other speed in that race ran a 44 buyer after running a 92 buyer. So, there is a reason. Are you just sucking up to Amos picking ice time second? I don't mind if you're doing it. I will never suck up to him.
No,
ever.
no,
ever.
I thought this horse ran well last time.
I don't disagree.
It was the pace was slow. He was far back. Time form had the fractions coated blue. Came running. Now drops in here a little bit easier. Outside draw should get a similar trip.
I should put a stat up for Tom, his stats, not for Joel Politi. He's like undefeated for Joel, right? He's had a great meet. Tom's had a very good meet. I mean, he's got 5 wins with a very limited number of starts. You know what I like about Ellis this year? And I just noticed this the other day. We have not heard once, because it hasn't been true, that it was a huge speed track at Ellis Park, right? We probably
Yes.
spent hours of our lives talking about that at last year's meet, and it just wasn't the case this year.
Yeah, I remember Wet Paint famously was against it a few times, or was at least once.
I'm going to give the credit to Kevin Kirstein. I'm just assuming that Kevin had something to do with it. You know Kevin,
Yeah,
right?
KK will get things sorted
He's the
out
best.
over there.
He's the best. What do you do with Waitlist, who's 5-2 favorite in the morning line? I know that Safi has been performing miracles, and you've got the horse third. He's been winning at a lot of lower level races, though, maiden types, kind of races where there wasn't a lot in them. And do I really want to jump in a horse that's primarily is a turf or synthetic horse that Todd only ran once in a sloppy sealed track and did lose to Duke Gloucester, who's much better than these? But Todd Pletcher had this horse. Are we really to assume that this horse is going to really do well in a scheduled dirt race and a fast track just because it's Safi? I mean, you've got it third defensively like I do, but I don't want to bet this horse just because it's Safi.
No, this horse feels like it feels like a for sure for sale situation. Claim for 50, and now just runs right in here for 25. It just feels like they're trying to get rid of the horse, and and it's a dirt race. I feel like it's probably a turf horse. I didn't want to get beat on the drop.
Can win, but not one that I want, especially if he's favored in here. Race number 5. I mean, in a way, in race number 5, as we move on, the number 12 Nolo Conteste, as we look at the last dirt race this horse ran, and you've got him on top, I've got him second. I mean, he ran a huge figure. He's just the horse to beat, and I'm taking somebody else that from that race that ran behind him, and I'll talk about it. He was terrible, but what's not to like about him out of this race?
Yeah, I thought he ran well, like you said, 2 back. The pace wasn't particularly quick, and he was a little bit off of it, so I give him a little bit of a bonus for that, trying to run horses down. I wish he was drawn a little bit more inside, but yeah, what was I going to do? I like the 13 as well. So
I thought the track was pretty fair yesterday, so I didn't, don't have a real issue with it. Who's scratching here? There's like one scratch. Mason Mania scratched. All right, I understand. Charlie 5-0 runs his last race. He's getting nothing. He was brutal in there. He was wide, and he kind of moved in towards the inside, and he was awful. And I liked him last time because he was on a dead rail 2 races back in Monmouth. He ran a race that makes him super competitive against Priority Trade 3 back, and he won last time Flavian Pratt rode him, and Flavian's back aboard today. If he runs his last race, he has absolutely no chance, but you've got him third as well, so you obviously saw the same things I did, and you're scared that he's going to run a little bit better today. And if he does, he can win this race at a better price.
Yeah, I just thought it was possible that he was going to run back to those, like you said. And then also, he's getting down here kind of towards the bottom again for 16.
Yep.
Maybe that would wake him up a little bit. And he's going to be an okay price, too. I think some other horses are going to take money in here that, look, he's the type of horse that if we're right in the first leg with the 6, who's 17-1 right now, I don't want horses like Charlie 5-0 knocking me out of the pick 5.
I don't want any of them knocking me out,
Me
but
either,
I hear you. I mean,
especially like that.
Well, Gangley's another one, a horse that we both have in there. You have second, I have third. I don't really, Don Kimball doesn't train a lot of horses. He claimed from Peter Walder. The horse ran well out of town, was absolutely a disaster last time out at 5-1. But I don't want to completely ignore a horse that's got plenty of races that are make him a huge player in here.
Yeah, I typically am not cutting in line to bet horses off of Peter Walder, but this horse has some back numbers that if John Kimball can find, I want to make sure that I had. But yeah, it's probably not a winning proposition to be running around taking horses off of Peter Walder.
Yeah, he's a tough guy to claim from. Critical Threat and Market Alert both going out for Robbie Falcone, and David has both of them relatively short prices in here. I picked him 4th and 5th. I don't know what to do with him. Critical threat. I mean, he was in a funny race that he won last time, two back for Robbie. I think this is a much tougher field. And I just wonder if he's really quite as good as some of these. And Market Alert, Acclaim, drop down. He didn't run particularly well last time. He was a short price because he was an entry with Amundsen. But he has back races that make him dangerous.
2-2, Pat.
I just feel like one of the reasons I kind of went away from this horse,
Cool.
I think these Flying P horses are getting a little bit overbet now. And I felt like this horse is going to be overbet.
I think it's fair. Obviously, they're dropping. They're trying to win to have a shot. They're 5 behind. The owner's title is effectively over, but we'll see if they can pick it up. Race number 6. We'll take a break after race number 6. We are on the turf in race 6, and a big scratch of the 12 coming out. We'll show the horse that you have on top, Adventurous Spirit. This is last time at Monmouth, a drop down. Todd Pletcher has really poor numbers dropping from maiden special, maiden claimer, and turf routes, which is surprising. He's 16 for 74, 22%, only 36 hitting the board, $1.28 ROI, which says to me their horses like this. Because it's not bad to be winning at 22%, but this is a category where people win. And, Chad Brown has similarly bad numbers in these kind of moves as well on the turf, which just says these guys are dropping when they're just kind of giving up. It's Saratoga. He's 1 for 13 with a 92-cent ROI in the drop. A place he's done it a lot, and, obviously trying to win races here. He wasn't winning the trainer's title. I just don't know about this horse, how good he is. And he's going to be a short price in here, and I didn't want to pick him on top.
The hardest part for me is the last 2 races are better than anything else in here is run in their entire life.
I agree.
And I completely understand. I mean, it's and like I think we've talked about this before. When you name a poor stat like that for Todd or for Chad who's dropping, it's a good thing.
Oh yeah, it's not that they're dropping because they're just not very good.
Yeah.
Right. Trainers get annoyed with that sometimes, and it's like when you're first time for a tag and your stats are good, maybe you're making the wrong drops. When your stats are bad,
Yep.
You're smart enough to drop the ones that you should be dropping.
Exactly.
And you're totally right. And that's the thing with Todd. It's like Todd's like, this horse just isn't very good, and I'm going to move. And he's got a lot of horses in his barn, and he's smart enough to know that we're trying to win a race, and he's certainly the horse to beat in here. But I am going to bet Guile in this race off the claim by Mike Maker. And you obviously saw the same thing I did. And where else am I supposed to go in this race? I mean, El Alacron certainly ran well enough last time and held together reasonably well in a race that fell apart. And it's not like the Winter Nostalgic one didn't at least come back to win for Todd Pletcher, but that race collapsed. But I'm not really thrilled with anybody. And Guile is just the new face situation. Don't let me interrupt your conversation, Kyle. Tell Kyle, don't let me interrupt your conversation, Kyle. I know you have your earphones on and you can't realize how loud you're talking. And I'm hungry and you're eating over there. But don't let us bother you. You good? Okay. You're mad because I haven't made fun of you the whole meet. Anyway, I'm going to take Guile.
Yeah, the horse made sense to me. I think the horse will probably improve a little bit.
He's yelling over there.
Drawing down towards the inside. You'll get Irad. He's going to save ground around there. Should be finishing while the rest of them are stopping.
All right, we'll see what happens in race 6. The pick 6 carryover is coming up soon. We still have one more race. We're going to take a break here from our friends at Saratoga Springwater.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Springwater. Make every day exquisite.
We're back. He's Jonathan. I'm Andy. Day 39. Gorgeous day.
It's beautiful.
Been a great meet, hasn't it?
It has been. We've had a couple, we had little weather hiccups here and there, but it didn't feel like it was as bad as it was last year. Even though we had a day canceled, but nah.
I'm going to tell you something, that day canceled. I think it was like a great day for all of us to sort of recharge a little bit during a tough time. Obviously, we'd like to run all 40, and we're sorry for those that were inconvenienced, but it's just been fun. And I tell you what, I think the show has been really fun. I've enjoyed working with everybody, which is pretty amazing for me because everyone hates me, and I really don't like anybody else. But it's been fun. It's been a good time.
It has been good. No, it's good.
It's a fun crew.
It's it's a grind, but it's fun. I wouldn't. It's not a complain grind. It's just it's long.
It's long.
It's
It's
long.
long, but it's fun. And do want to, of course, thank everybody behind the scenes. Even Kyle will thank, who do so much to put this show on, because we get, whether it's credit or whatever, being up front and being on TV. But the amount of work done by the people in the truck daily, whether it's this show or it's the show in the afternoon, I don't think anyone can really understand how much work they do and an amazing job they do. And when you consider the amount of information and stuff put up there, they make very, very, very few mistakes, a lot less than I make. And a big thank you to everybody behind the scenes. Everybody does a lot of work.
No, this show. It couldn't happen. It's shocking that pull it off with the amount of people we have working behind the scenes.
No, I agree.
Not nearly enough.
And a lot of terrific people as well doing the work. So thank you to everybody at NYRA, but everybody behind the scenes in the TV show that make miracles happen on a daily basis. Race number 7. Let's start with Going Steady and Quick Kick. I mean, Quick Kick is a horse that I think we've all sort of been waiting a little bit to come back for Tom, and going at 7 furlongs. And you don't want to make too much of, the sort of late runs, big gallop outs. But this race was dominated up front. LaCara was good. Boy, this horse was really running at the end, no?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought the horse ran extremely well, and drawn out towards the outside, third start. I think I forget often how much experience goes in these races, right? We always hear about the next fastest first-time starter in the world, and everyone gets excited about that, looking for something spectacular to happen. But it's so often these horses with experience run so much better just because they've been out there. They know what's going on, and Going Steady is one of those that made a little bit of sense to me towards the outside. But I think we both ended up landing on the first.
So the sales work for Scottish Lassie of 21, and I don't know. I thought the sales work was strong. McKinsey, first-time starter, and TT's been really having a good meet. His horse has been running extremely well, Jorge Abreu.
I mean, his first-time starters throughout his career, he's got great stats. 19% with first-time starters throughout his career, and this horse has some nice works on the Clocker report as well. A couple of B pluses, drawn well. You get IRAD, has speed away to you're gonna be able to get away from there and stay clean. I just thought it was a good opportunity to try to take a firster.
Feels like there's going to be a lot of money for the firster outside of him. Snow Tea, that I think David Aragona made 5-2 on the morning line, which usually means that he's been impressed by the horse's workouts and assumes the horse will take money because of it. And Danny did win a race last week when he got up to win the stake over Spirit of St. Louis, and his maiden ran very well when narrowly beaten on Travers Day. But it's been a rough meet for the barn. But sometimes they have their best horses for last. You did not include this horse. I put the horse third.
Yeah, but he just doesn't have great numbers with first-time starters, and like you mentioned, cold meat.
I left Soothe in there, and you've got the horse in there somewhere as well. I know the Dam was a good turf horse lull for Christophe Clement, but this horse a half the time out and a tap it, and I know I'm always a sucker for the Claiborne horses. I can never leave them out.
Yeah, they're just so well bred. You know that there's champions mixed in there. Drawn well. I like when young horses draw towards the outside. I feel like less bad can happen out there. Sure, they might break a little. They might be a little wide. They might break a little out. But at least they're not in behind, eating a bunch of dirt, confused what's going on. And the works have been okay for this filly as well.
See what happens race 7. Race 8 kicks off the pick 6, carryover of $210,000. Thank you very much for that. Of course, that's White Abario, who won last year's Whitney. Why don't we get Arthur's Ride up there? He's kind of white too.
Yeah.
He's even whiter, right?
Yeah, he is. He's bright.
You betting against him today? I am.
I'm going to use. We're going to get there. I'm going to use Tap and Trice, but I mean, the pace scenario for him is just. I don't see how someone.
Andy Beyer is mad at me for taking a big stand against Arthur's Ride, and I'm having dinner with him tonight, so I'm really hoping he loses so I can humiliate him at dinner a little more. It was so fun having Andy on the show yesterday. It's really such a great part of the meets. We get late to the meet, and Andy comes on, and I think sometimes because you're friendly with somebody, you underappreciate their importance in the game. But there's really been nobody more important in horse racing in my life, and for me in particular, than Andy Beyer.
Oh, undisputed Mount Rushmore.
Yep.
Not even close.
Yep. Has such a great effect in a positive way in the game for horse players, and we miss his writing. We miss seeing Steve Chris writing on a daily basis in horse racing. I wish those guys were still around giving people a hard time.
I've gifted a lot of Beyer's books to people who are like, I don't understand why that figure. I just go to Amazon, give me your address, I send them the book, and said, you figure it out.
And the funny thing is, they get criticized for correcting figures things. He's the first one to admit that, these figures, we think some are rock solid, but there are figures out there that often the ones that people are asking about that they have some questions about too. Anyhow, race number 8. This feels like a horse that's going to get leaned on in the pick 6. We'll look at Title Forces finishing second to Taking Candy, who has a real chance to win the Baruch later, ahead of Irish Aces, who's a very good horse for Brennan Walsh. Gets a good inside post on the rail, and I'm not making a case against this horse, and I think this is an immediate lean, and if this horse loses, it starts out very much with the possibility of a double carryover for Friday, for last closing day.
Right, and it's funny because so many times in spots like this, I think people get a little bit overspready because turf can be a little chaotic. I completely agree. I mean, I don't have the heart to single this horse, and I feel like there's a couple other that I need. But, man, this horse feels like the most likely winner.
Yeah, and if this horse is a comparable price to the horse we're showing here, Perros, I'm all in. Because I'm not saying Perros can't win, but the fact that I have Perros 4th just said I didn't really like anybody else because he's run very well, but he has had the greatest rides and juiciest trips of any horse in racing. Jose has given this horse just rides of utter perfection in his races, on good rails, saving ground. And maybe he'll get the same trip again with Irad, but man, I think he is all dressed up with nowhere to go.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that was Jose's ride on Perros in that race.
Getting over the inside when the rail was good from the outside, it's brilliant.
Yeah, it was one of the best rides I've seen in the entire meet.
Yep.
And Perros is 3 for 5 on turf courses listed as firm, 0 for 1. One of the worst races as of late was on a not firm turf course. So I don't want to get carried away. I mean, I think this is one of the best horses in the race. I'm going to use, but I don't trust.
Looking towards the outside, you have captured the flag in there for Todd. Getting back to the turf, I didn't love the field he was in with when he won 2 back with a perfect trip, so I didn't include him.
I only did this because looking through the pedigree, it's a great turf pedigree. And I just am hopeful that if it is a little soft out there, that Capture the Flag's turf pedigree will help him improve. He is not fast enough yet, but I'm hoping that the soft ground moves him up.
I put the 9 due in Colorado second because I think Luis is supposed to clear the lead with him, and I feel like if the 2 loses, he's going to lose to a horse that gets loose. So I'm going to throw him in there as a backup. And
you didn't think the 8 and Jose Gomez were going to go?
He probably is. He is a dirt horse, but he does have a lot of speed. I'm hoping he doesn't have that speed, but if he does, you're absolutely right. And I don't want to completely leave out Khalik. I know it's the inner turf, the rails came down, but he did get off the AEs, and I know he's been bad, but these are the easier horses in general, save the favorite.
Yeah, he hasn't had great trips in his last 2, and man, he as a 3-year-old, he was right there on the edge of being pretty darn good. So I'm going to try to forgive those last 2, and he's definitely one that I think you could probably use. He'd be more of a B type for me, but he's putting blinkers on, which is interesting. So maybe he'll be a different horse.
We'll see what happens in race number 8, kicking off that pick 6 and the carryover 210,000. Race number 9 lost a big player in here when Cupid's Heart coming out, and I'm not sure if her coming out cinches the title for Klarovich. I'm not sure they have 5 chances to tie, but we'll see what happens. I'd have to look back a little more carefully. We'll start out by showing St. Benedict's Prep finishing second to Cupid's Heart 2 back because I thought Cupid's Hearts would run. You're taking this horse on top. Is going to be forward in a race, and there is a bit of a murky pace, but I'm hoping that she and Mighty Madison hook up a little bit more. With the 8 on the outside scratched, they're the 2 main speeds.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm hoping it is, Timeform US said it was going to be a slower pace. I felt like those 2 were just going to kind of run around the track. And
they may.
We both use the same 2 other horses. I thought that 7 and the 9 were interesting coming from out of it, but I had to make a decision on what I thought the pace was going to be. And I thought it was going to be slow. That's why I defaulted to using the 1 and the 2.
Yeah, we're moving on to race number 9 now, guys. Thank you very much. I don't have an argument with that. Mighty Madison will show the race last time, took a tough beat. Was this the only tough beat? Actually, there were 2 tough beats this beat for Phil Bauer. 3. The Prioress, that maiden that should have won first time out. He's had quite a meet. I feel like she shouldn't have lost last time. And she's very dangerous today. I thought she might be a little bit better than St. Benedict's Prep.
I just was disappointed last time that with that slow pace she didn't win. And that was why I couldn't. But I felt like she might get a similar trip here, and so I had to use her. But that's why I went with St. Benedict's Prep, literally because time form had St. Benedict's Prep last race, red coated fractions. Mighty Madison's last race, blue coated fractions. Give me the horse that ran faster earlier.
Is there any chance Backyard Money shows a little more speed today and puts a little more speed in the race, or she just doesn't have the speed anymore?
I don't
I
think
don't
she's
know
the
she
same
does.
horse.
All right, with Signal from Noise, I wish that the 6 was running. I wish the 8 was running because the 6 would take money, and I did not like her today. And the 8 would inject a little more speed in the race. Without them, it gets tough for Signal Noise. But Joelle is going to have to get this horse more in the game. She does not have to be quite as far back as she was in some of her other starts. And I just felt looking at her last time, she just never really had a chance to get into the race, and she's a better horse than that. I thought her return race gives her a real chance, and maybe she just didn't run well the second time off the layoff, and now the third time she's going to run back to her best race, which I thought could win here, and she's going to be a better price. That's all it really came down to, was taking a better price on a horse that I think is good enough to win, but I am worried that she's pace compromised.
If I thought the pace would be fast, 100% I would pick this horse. But I had to make that decision, like I said earlier. I just don't think the pace is going to be that quick. I think she's up against it from that. I wouldn't be if it's honest, I think she can win. I just think it's going to be slow.
We'll see what happens. You may well be right in there. Race number 10, I'm going a little bit off the deep end in here, and I wish that Scuttlebuzz wasn't in there, as we'll show the last race, because Scuttlebuzz ran well last time. I don't think well enough to win this race, but I would love to bet on Maxwell Esquire in here at a much better price. But with Scuttlebuzz in there, instead of a horse that's going to be 15 to 1, you're talking about a horse going to be 5 to 1, and I can't accept it. I think Maxwell Esquire has wanted to sprint's been in good form, and I put a 4th because it might not really be good enough even on his recent best. But he's not a router. But Scuttlebuzz refound that form, some of the form from old when he was very good. But there's a much tougher field.
I agree. I felt like Scuttlebuzz got a perfect trip last time. At a shorter price, do you want to bet that horse is going to get the same trip? And then I also felt like there's a couple of horses in here that are like knocking on the door of being stakes type turf sprinters.
Right.
And I just felt like it was just too tough for Scuttlebuzz.
Okay, my problem with Run Curtis Run, who obviously can win, has been running against better horses, is he has had absolutely perfect trips in his last 2 starts, and it's just had no finish at all. That bothers me.
Well, so I saw that too, and I thought to myself, I think it's less that he's not finishing, it's that the horses that he's facing are finishing. And I think that getting in here with this group, with that inside post, he's going to get another perfect trip. His figures are better. I just think maybe when he's running against these, that illusion of him not finishing will turn into him finishing.
Maybe you're right. I just don't think. I think his last 2 races have been bad, and I just don't want to bet him off that. But maybe he'll get another very good trip in here again. Seaver comes up here from Florida. He doesn't seem impossible. You've got him 3rd. What about Set? I mean, isn't he dangerous in here? We both have him 2nd. I know he didn't do a ton of running last time out, but that was a pretty strong field and the fast pace he was chasing.
I agree. I thought this is one of the horses I talked about, borderline stakes type. He ran well enough in the Pin Mile. He's won a couple of stakes. They finally decided, let's try to turn him into a sprinter. He ran well enough. He ran into Star of Mystery, who's probably one of the best turf sprinters in the country, and she's a 3-year-old filly. And he gets Lasix back. Dylan's riding, making all the right decisions.
He's my top sane pick when I'm not going crazy here and picking a horse that I will be betting on Rough Draft. And, Rough Draft, he was bad last time. Can we wait a second on the replay? Can we go back? I'm sorry. I don't mean to be difficult. Thank you. I'm sorry. You were doing your job, and I'm not. But just give me a second. He was bad last time. There's no doubt about it. He was so bad I don't get it. Because he actually ran really well 2 races back with a wide premature move, and he was bad. He was a little bit wide, but he was bad. I'm not sure this horse isn't a turf sprinter, and now we'll go back because people will see that this horse shows the 1 5.5 furlong turf sprint and didn't run well, though it wasn't a bad field he was in. But I'm going to go back to last April when this horse ran extremely well in a 6 furlong turf sprint, getting an 84 buyer at Aqueduct. And that's a number that makes this horse at least somewhat contentious in here based on what we've seen from the others. And I'm not so sure this horse can't turf sprint. I lost money on him last time out. maybe he just can't run anymore, and I'm chasing a horse that just can't run. And maybe they're getting desperate, trying something new. But I respect Fernando Abreu, and I also think that people are going to say, "What are they doing, turning this horse back? He can't turf sprint, and he can." So I'm going to give him. He's my crazy pick of the week.
I mean, I think you're right. You said they were going to say that. That's exactly what I thought. Turf sprint cutbacks are hard for me to visualize anyways because I give so much premium to speed in turf sprints. But I see exactly where you're coming from. If this race happens to fall apart, I mean, he'll be finishing when some of them won't be.
And also, I'm looking at this race. I don't really love anybody in here.
No.
I'm not sure that Set's really a turf sprinter because did he really do any running last time? Or was he just in a good race where he couldn't have run any worse in a certain way? And I don't trust Run Curtis Run, even though I agree with you. He is the horse to beat. So we'll see what happens. My crazy horse of the day is Rough Draft. He'll blow up the pick 6, race number 11. Race number 11, the stake. So Fort Washington and Running Bee both tried to stretch out at mile and 3/8 and didn't work, but they hit the wire together in a race that just completely fell apart. But I thought it was a pretty good field despite the finish. Now, Fort Washington a little wide early, but not much after that. And both these horses saved ground for at least some of the race last time outside. I went to Running Bee, who I just thought had the best resume of these. He might just be the best horse.
Yep, he runs well on turf not listed as firm. I loved him at Pimlico in the dinner party because it was soft, and I thought he was going to run a little bit better than he did.
Well, I think he was badly compromised because Tyler could never get him off the rail because of his post, and there's no question that you needed to be outside on that bog of a course that day. So I actually thought he ran very well in there, and he was really just kind of stuck down inside of horses. So I thought his performance was actually a lot better than it looks, and that's one of the reasons I think he's pretty good in here. But you are going to take Taking Candy, and we'll take a look at Taking Candy's last, a horse that may just be improving for Cherie DeVoe.
Yeah, I just thought could get loose in here. We'll see what they do with Steady On, but Steady On's pace figures aren't that fast. Taking Candy actually has pretty good, pace figures for a turf horse. Drawn towards the outside. If someone else goes, can sit right off of them. Has a couple of good races on good. Ran, was second to Carl Spackler on this turf course, listed as good last year. It was as a pace play for me. While
I agree. This horse. No,
yeah.
Let me ask you: Is this horse really going to get clear of Steady On? Isn't Flavian just going? What chance does Steady On have if they're not going to come flying out of the gate?
It's strictly about intent. If Jose wants the lead, and it's not in like a crazy over-the-top way, if he wants to be forward and he wants the lead.
He has more speed. I don't
Yeah,
disagree.
yeah.
I'm just wondering if Flavian's thing was Steady On. I got no shot to win this race unless I go.
Yeah. Well,
So, and I think Todd's probably thinking similarly. I know he's coming back on short rest, but Pioneering Spirit, he doesn't want a mile and a half, and he didn't even run that badly last time, frankly. And, this is a horse that has had some trips in some of his races. Are we totally convinced he can't run anymore? Now John's taking over. John's taking over. John didn't want it. Wasn't the conversation.
I'm kind of convinced. I'm kind of convinced he can't.
Okay, maybe he can. I'm not sure he's not going to run well. I can wait. What about Cherie's other horse, Rebel Red?
I just didn't think it was fast enough. Numbers are too light. Internal fractions were just a little too light. I just didn't think it was that good.
Okay, maybe you're right. He has lost an eye since his last race. And I talked to Cherie about it, and she said he's doing great. So she had, she wanted to make sure people knew about it. Actually, she was talking about it. It's not an equipment change, but it is something she wanted to bring up, make people know. But she said he's been doing great, and obviously wouldn't run him if he wasn't. I'd say one thing about this race: he won for fun in here. So I do wonder if he's got a little bit more upside as a lightly raced horse, and I didn't think he was totally impossible.
No, I don't think it was impossible. It just compared to the Fort Washingtons, the Running Bees, the Taking Candies, just going to have to get faster. And usually when you have to get faster than 3 horses, one of them's going to show up.
Cannot disagree with that. We come up the Jockey Club Gold Cup, the penultimate Grade 1 of our Saratoga meeting, and I don't want to get on the biggest of soapboxes against Arthur's Ride because he has been terrific. And Arthur's Ride was a horse that was cut out to be a Derby contender before getting hurt. And he's run extremely well. This is my favorite ride of the meet. Junior left with reckless abandon, and he said, if you want to run with me, you're going to be going too fast. And I like it when riders do that. And he put him away and put the race away around the first turn. This was a very good effort. He wasn't lucky to win. And I think he was lucky to win 2 back, but Horses stumbled at the start. Horses lost riders. It was a track that was extremely unkind to closers. And I do think there's an argument that speed was very good. Now, listen, he does have a bigger pace advantage in this race than he did in the Whitney. But unless this track comes up a big inside speed track, I just don't think he's going to have exactly as much in his favor in here. He's going to be a crazy short price. And I'm not totally convinced there aren't others in here that have a chance to be competitive with him that are going to be much bigger prices because he's going to be 3 or 4 to 5. So I think it's a good day to bet against him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to use Tapit Trice.
Show the Monmouth Cup.
Yeah, just because, he's got the blinkers, but he's still, the one thing I have a problem with Tapit Trice is he's just not very quick out of the gate. And, man, if he breaks a step or two slow, he can't spot Arthur's ride. I'm just hoping that he's, from the rail, that Irad will try to get him out of there and get him out of there running, and that Arthur's ride doesn't show up is the only way I think Tapit Trice wins. But, man, Arthur's ride has such a big edge. I think he's probably better at 1.25 miles. I don't think Bill would run him in here if he didn't think he was doing super. Like, what's the point of running him back quickly unless
Bill
he thinks
runs.
he's doing super?
Yeah,
Yeah, of
one
course.
thing about Bill Mott that you have to applaud, he runs. He doesn't worry about his win percentage. He runs. And it's one of the reasons that he is one of the greatest trainers of all time, that he runs his horses, and he's not afraid of horses, and I love that about Bill. So, he said after the Whitney, I'm running in the Gold Cup. I came to run the Gold Cup. So we won the Whitney, but I'm running the Gold Cup, and I love that about Bill. And listen, I'm not saying he's way the horse to beat in here. He's had things his own way, and I think, and listen, he went fast early last time. I'm not denying how good the race was. But with the wet track and outrunning the other speeds, I just want to see on a fast track, in a competitive race, because I know Tapit Trice has to get faster. He was good. So why Highland Falls? I'm going to be honest. David Aragona sold me on Highland Falls. I was wondering if he was really good enough. I was going to pick at 1.6. But I don't disagree with him. I wish that Flo had been a little bit more aggressive last time. He was forward, and he just kind of let the race sort of develop in front of him instead of being more aggressive, and kind of got shuffled a little on the inside. And by the time he had a chance to get out, Tapit Trice was gone. I'm not saying he was going to beat him, but I think it could have been a lot closer. And I think his price is going to be okay in here because we're going to see how much he got beaten last time. And I think he gets a little bit more lost in the shuffle than the 5 to 1 he was. I know he takes a lot of money. He's a horse who's pretty darn good. I guess the question is, how much do we buy the 104 figure in the Oakland Handicap? Because it has not been a figure that has been really reproduced a lot by the other runners.
Yeah, I mean, my problem with Highland Falls, I mean, look, I understand what you're trying to accomplish
It's a big
here.
price, not you're not.
Yeah. Is that the only time he wins is when he's odds on or even money. And, I think he kind of has to have things go his way at this level. And I'm not sure it's going to go his way.
I would like to see Flo be more aggressive and get some better position in here. What about Bright Future, the number 3? We'll show him winning the race last year. And his race last year is good enough to give him a chance in here. And I am willing to say, if you liked him last time, don't completely give up on him, because I just don't think he handled the wet track at all last time. He's a better horse than that.
Yeah, if you liked him last time, don't give up on him. If you didn't like him last time, don't start liking him now.
That's fair.
His best race, he got an absolutely perfect trip.
Yep.
He's not going to get that trip here today.
Yeah, I don't know where to go with him. I thought others were better in here, but he did run well when he won this race last year, and he's going to be a very big price. We're not Pyrenees. This is him running second last time to Kingsbarns in the Foster, and Cherie's feeling was the more distance, the better, and that's why he beat Kingsbarn 2 back in the Vimblego Special. It's not as though he's a total bum, this horse. He's going to be a big price. He does have to get faster, though.
Yeah, he does, and the problem is that a couple of at least one of his best races at Keeneland, he was forward. He's not going to make the lead in here. Just got to get faster. It's one of those races that, like, every time I try to get creative outside of Tapit Trice, which I don't even think is that creative, how is Arthur's ride not going to get an absolutely wonderful trip?
I don't want to bet on short-priced horses that you missed the boat on last time in these situations. I may be, making a mistake here, but I'm willing to lose with that mistake. Disarm. I didn't think he did any running last time, but at least he did a little more running, because at one time we thought he was going to be pretty good. He was good in the Travers, and I've got him 4th, you've got him 3rd, and he's a little bit at this point, though, like waiting for Godot, isn't he?
Yeah, it's exactly what I'm just. Where is that Travers race, and can Steve Asmussen find it? If he does, I don't want to. This horse is going to be probably bigger than 8 to 1.
I think he is. Maybe, I don't know. A lot of people like him, and maybe there's some reasons to like him. We'll see what happens Gold Cup. I think it's going to be a really fun race. I'm looking forward to it. Race number 13, I cannot take Maddie's middle in here, and you just copped out, didn't you? You just
Yeah.
copped out. You beat him last time. You had the winner on top. It's a great pick. We've done it in Causeway. We'll take a look at the race. His loss in this race, in my opinion, was utterly embarrassing. And now he's got to get 7 furlongs. If he couldn't win last time, I cannot, in all good conscience, put him on top. He should have won here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
This is just a bad group.
It is not a good group. It is not. I'm not going to say. But I think there are reasons. I'm surprised that you don't have Landauer a little bit in here. This horse, this horse was only 14 to 1, a killer maiden field first time out for Gary Siaka. And obviously, things went wrong. He was working well. Then they dropped him, and he really didn't run that badly in a race that's come up okay, where the speeds ran 1, 2, 3 around the racetrack. And now he's dropping into a field, which I agree with you is not that good. He ran a 55 buyer last time out in March. Maybe he's the fuzzy horse for the Steve Bix DT stables today.
Yeah, puts the blinkers on.
I think this horse is the other horse in here and a little bit interesting, unless you want one of the firsters. What do you think happens? Is there going to be any steam for the 10, 11, or 12 in here?
No, the 10 worked with a horse called Rider Special. It's pretty good, and worked well.
A C+ workout would be good enough to win this race.
Well, this is a solid B and outworked Rider Special. I think Rider Special is like a 70, 80 buyer type. So that was, it's not really Linda's thing. First time out, this horse has been entered 3 times, starting back in July,
Is that a lot
August.
for a little for Linda to have only scratched 3 times? Was she scratched or was the horse an MTO? Or
MTO a couple times, also eligible the other time.
okay, so not your fault, Linda, on this
Yeah.
one. And you stayed in today. Yeah, I mean, this is a race where you'd be remiss not to pay a little attention to the firsters on the outside. Jonathan, a pleasure as it's all been all meet. It's been a lot of fun in talking horses. Appreciate your hard work. Appreciate everybody's hard work. Head over to Naira Bets. That's not hard work. Go to NairaBets.com, use the promo code SPA250, and sign up for Naira Bet. So once you've signed up, check out Track Stats when you're over there as well. We also have, I believe, a carryover, the Pick 6, $210,000. Starts in race 8 of our 47 race card today, racing straight through from right now until about 6:30 tomorrow. We have race 7 it starts. We're going till 7. I know we are. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Money back guaranteed. 10, oh, today till 7 tomorrow. Oh, it's 7 tomorrow. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank God. We're starting a little later, though. $10 win back here in Del Mar as well. We've got a cross-country Big 5. 2 at Monmouth, 3 here. And here's the show. Oh, yeah. 12:30 to 3:48. 3:48. Don't say you weren't warned. Go to the YouTube app, 3:48 to 5. I'll be on set. I'm sorry about this. It's only partly my fault, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. FS1, 5 to 6:30, 6:30 to 7. We do our best to bring you as many races as we possibly can on Fox. Thanks again. Thanks to everybody. Frank Miramati, by the way, turf is now firm. Frank Miramati up now with a reprise of the Scratches and Changes.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.